Okay.
So, welcome to the Adobe Users Group. We meet. By the way, my name is Cornelius Schulp. I'm one of the co-manager of the group. We meet every second Thursday of the month. That we talk about everything Adobe, from Photoshop, Illustrator, After Effects, and the like. So we're going to get, since there's not too many people here, we're going to go on and jump right into the presentation. We got Jon, and you. What's your title, Jon?
Oh, well, I'm, motion designer, visual effects supervisor, consultant,
Instructor, and the like.
yeah.
Jon will be presenting today on After Effects. So with that, without any further ado, let's get started.
Okay, this is Karen Krebs. I'm a co-manager, and I just want to inject that this is the Austin Adobe User Group. We operate out of Austin, Texas, and we meet on the second Thursday of every month on Zoom. We were used to meet in person before the pandemic, but we stepped into this future with this. And our speaker tonight is Jon Merrifield, who is also instructs at Lumen Bright here in Austin, Texas. So Jon, I'm handing over the mic to you. Thank you very much for doing this show.
Okay, no, glad to. Thank you. Okay, well, I'm going to jump right in and share my screen, except for this one's really Premiere Pro motion graphic templates, not After Effects. Although I am going to go into After Effects for a second, but we'll do that further, I think, in another presentation. This one's really focused on Premiere Pro.
Okay.
So, and I'm going to just share my screen and go over here. And we're going to really, this is Premiere Pro right here. I'm going to talk about it for in a second. Really what we're going to talk about is, it's called morgt files. Let me see if I can, what did I do to get this gone here? 1 second. Hide video panel. No. I'm just trying to hide.
And what does the acronym morgt mean again?
Yeah, so morgt files, it stands for motion graphics templates. And then so it's morgt, motion graphics template. And it's actually a file type, .mogt.
Okay.
And really, for me, it changed the face of Premiere. It really, it made a huge difference in what we're going to see here. Because I used to build my lower thirds and graphics all in After Effects, and every time I need another one, maybe there's 20 people that need a name title in a video or something,
Right?
And I would have to render out each one, basically in After Effects as an individual file, and then if there's another one, I have to go in and change it. Well, now with the morgt files, I can save that After Effects project, or also the essential graphics in Premiere is pretty comprehensive. I can build the titles in there, and they're easy to copy and then just change the name or the title and that kind of thing. And I'm going to go through sort of all that right now. Actually, I just have a shot to key it over. I'm just going to build a lower third for this woman. She's just from, this is just free footage from Adobe stock, which is great. And I'm also going to show a couple places where you can get some motion graphics templates, some morgt files. And After Effects, or I'm sorry, Premiere Pro also comes with a certain group of free ones. And they're great, but then after you use them a couple times, well, I need to build my own or buy more or get different free ones because, they get old quick, or, they're just the standard ones that come with it. So I'm just going to walk through sort of building a lower third graphic first. And if you're new to that term, lower third graphic or lower third super, lower third means in the lower third of the screen, right? So anytime there's news or anything in a person's name, or like on CNN or Fox, there might be information down here, and that's a lower third super. That means it's superimposed over the video in the lower third of the screen. That's just the terminology or where that came from. And so that's done now. In here, we're in Premiere Pro, and there's a type tool or a text tool. I'm just going to select that, and if I come up onto the program monitor, and by the way, I'm just going to go over this for a second. This is ubiquitous, sort of in all the Adobe tools. Really, all these things are just panels, right? I'm just clicking on panels and how they show up. This is called the workspace, and I know you went over this, Cornelius, but I'm just kind of reviewing again. And so if I go to the window menu, here's all the panels that are available. And this workspace that is set up right now is one of my custom workspaces. Or actually, I did a special one for this presentation, actually, which is still based on one of my custom workspaces. So if we looked at other workspaces, this is the workspace icon here, I could go to editing, and this would just show us a standard editing layout. And as you saw, my layout that I like to work in is similar, but I like having my properties panel or my all my project panel actually, and all my assets up in the upper left, which gives me a little more real estate to see all the files. So I'm just gonna switch back to that, my AAUG Pres, and there's my project panel. So, and here's the timeline, and we're gonna add a lower third title for her. So the first thing I'm gonna do is select the text tool or the type tool and just click up here. Just once, you see it added a graphic clip. And in this graphic clip are going to be layers of text or maybe even a logo. In addition, I'll walk through all that right now. But to activate this or to really control a lot of the parameters, we need a panel open that's called the Essential Graphics. I'm just going to talk about this for a second. Yet these layers or this text layer just built are actually in this panel called the Effects Controls. So all these parameters for this text layer are in Effects Controls. But there's another panel called the Essential Graphics that I'm going to open up over here that is also these same controls, but it's a little more intuitive way to modify them. So I'll walk through, and we're going to actually build the text and title and all that. So I just kind of want to walk through what it means and what these panels are, and just so we can kind of get a feel for what happens. So I could go to Window Essential Graphics to open the panel, which I'm going to do right now. And so this opens up this Essential Graphics panel over here. Or another way, I'm going to close it. Another way, as you know, with the Adobe programs, there's 10 ways to do everything. If I come down here with my selection tool and just double click on my graphic clip that was built when I typed with the text tool, I just double click on that and that opens the graphics panel. So, okay, I'm going to go back to my text tool. And so I have this empty text layer here, and I'm just going to start typing. I'm going to make up a name for her. Oh, Cindy Smith. Right. And so now this gives me a text layer, and here it's named with her name. There's an eyeball switch where if I turn it on and off, I'm turning off that text layer. That text layer lives here. It also lives right here in the effects controls. I'm going to close this panel for now. So Cindy Smith here and Cindy Smith here are the same exact thing. They're just two different sets of controls to use. Really, the only difference is this one, the Essential Graphics panel, it's a little more, there's a little more real estate to deal with some of these things. So it's easier to kind of get set up over here. Yet for the animation, which involves keyframes, that's all going to happen in this effects controls panel. So I kind of always keep them both open when I'm working with titles and effects and all that. Okay, so I have Cindy Smith, and I have her selected. So now I can adjust, and just like in Photoshop, so all these text tools sort of work the same. One thing that's important when you're animating is I like to know, you want to select the justification of the characters prior to your setup or animation. Right now it's selected to be justified to the left, which I think I will leave. And that is, the reason is I do that first, or I want to make sure, because if I justify it somewhere else, it moves it, or it feels like it's moving it. Right? Just by clicking these, it seems like it's moving it. And just to explain it well, what it's really doing is moving it in relation to the anchor point. So if I go over to the selection tool, I see my box changes to blue that's around my text. So the text tool, the type tool, and the selection tool are really the tools I'm going to use to mess with this text. With the selection tool in the blue box, that means I can just hover my cursor over the center of it and click and drag to move it and position it. Now I'm paying attention to these two numbers right here, because as I'm moving it, those two numbers are changing. First one is X. Actually, I can hover over that with my cursor and I get the finger with two arrows. That means I can click and drag that number to adjust the X position, or I can click and drag the Y number to adjust the Y position. Or with this selection tool selected.
May I ask something?
So of course, yes.
Is that text that we're seeing ASCII text, or is it some kind of graphic object?
Oh, so it's actually a text layer, and it's actually in vector.
Okay.
So
Vector, not ASCII. Got it.
yeah, and that's important too, because if I look here, there's also an effect called vector motion in the effects controls. I'm going to get to that in a minute. So when I'm working in Premiere with graphics, the last thing I really want to do is adjust it or move it or position it or scale it with the layer motion properties. Let me just demonstrate that, because that's a good point. So Cindy Smith, but first we're going to go look at the anchor point real quick. You know, when I have her selected and I have the selection tool selected, so there's a blue box and a red box. Maybe it's hard to see. If I zoom in, can you see me zooming in right now? Does it zoom in on the Zoom?
Not at the moment.
Okay,
It looks
so yeah,
motionless.
yeah, I'm zooming in the monitor, but that doesn't work on the Zoom thing. But so right here, there's a circle that's the anchor point.
It's not very visible, but when
Yeah.
you point to it, we can imagine it.
Yeah, when I
And
hover
actually, your cursor turns into a circle in a box when you're right on the anchor
yeah,
point.
when I'm right on it, that's sort of the
Yes.
anchor point tool. And what the anchor point is that's where it scales or grows from or is justified to. So for example, if I rotate it, it's going to rotate around that anchor point.
If you wanted to change the anchor point to be on the upper right or in the middle, could you do that?
Yeah, so that may be, there's a couple of ways. One is if I tell it to justify to the center, remember I was saying I click on these and it moves the text. It moved the text, but really only relative to the anchor point. Now it's in the center, and if I rotate it, it rotates around there. And then to move that, I'm just undoing. Whoops.
But is it possible to select a different anchor point than the one that it defaulted to?
Well, you can only like move the one that it defaults to.
Okay.
So I can hover over this anchor point and I get this, it's called pan behind tool. And I can move the anchor point even over here. So now it's going to rotate around that position. Oops, it's going to rotate around that position when I adjust the rotation. So it's rotating around this point now. Also, when I'm dragging the anchor point around, if I hold down, I guess not. I thought it would snap. They change this all the time, right, Cornelius? Okay, so it should though. Let me go back to my selection tool. Let's just get this centered, rotation 0. And I'm just gonna put the anchor point back here on the left because I actually want her name kind of justified to the left for any animation, command, control, option, no. Oh, okay. I'll just do it manually right there. Okay, Cindy Smith. So that's one layer. So, and then just like in Photoshop and the other things, in other words, even with the text tool selected, if I come over here to change the font size, which is right here. Oh, usually you have to select it or it won't change the font size. It'll just change the font based on where your cursor is, right? Same thing with color. If I change the fill color to yellow or green, let's say, it doesn't change it on the text because the text is not selected, but it changed it from that cursor that's right there. So if I type some more, it's green now. To change the actual color, I'd want to select that text, which I just did by clicking and dragging. You can also do by like double clicking the text layer here and it selects everybody.
Only what's selected gets affected, remember? What's
selected gets affected, that's right. What's selected gets affected. Yeah, I heard you say that on your, I think it was on the last Illustrator one.
That's a common expression.
Cornelia says it all the time.
Yeah. And I like the black reveals, white conceals thing.
Right.
Okay. So I'm just going to make her a little smaller and get her kind of set where I want. And so this is what I do often. So I'm going to switch the selection tool and get her kind of moved. So Cindy Smith, one thing to note, I think when you're making lower thirds, and this is very common, I'll even tell a little story that really happened once. So while I'm here, I'm going to hit the wrench, which is the settings, and I'm just going to call up the safe margins. So these safe margins right here.
Mhm.
And then I'll talk about those for a second. So if you're in Photoshop and you say, hey, make a document that's going to be for video, it makes not rulers, but
Guides,
huh?
guides.
Yeah, it makes guides in the same exact spot. And this is like ubiquitous in the world. And it doesn't matter what program you're in, Final Cut, any TV station, everywhere, it's these same exact lines. They're from like the 50s. The idea is this one out here is called safe action. That means anything you want to make sure it's seen on any TV, because all TVs cut off the edges. We don't see the edges when we're working in these tools or in YouTube or on the computer, right? But when we broadcast or even play YouTube on TV, the edges are cut off a little bit.
And also people may be playing this on any kind of mobile device.
Yeah,
The
so
video,
and if you look at, I'm just going to go look at it real quick. If I go and if I look at anything, what did it say? CNN newscast, I don't know, or Fox, it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to go while I'm here and try and find some images. And so we'll look here. So here's one. So look right here. They may have the backgrounds may go off the way to the edge, but their text never does.
Mhm.
They always make sure that it's safe. And by that, I mean, they call this one safe title. So to see your titles everywhere, you want to make sure they're inside of the safe title guideline on your safe margins. Now, but then that's also a misnomer, because this was designed in the 50s. Right? When everything was 4:3 standard def, and the TVs cut off more. And there was 4:3. So this is 10% and this is 20%. Right? Which to me is way more than is ever going to get cut off. Plus, now that everything's 16:9, this 10% spacing on the vertical is much smaller, it feels, than the 10% spacing on the horizontal. Do you know what I mean? If I line something up there, it's not centered to the corner. So it's bad for designing, I think. Also, I think anything that's about halfway, even outside of safe title, is not going to get cut off. Or safe action, I mean. But I still use it as a guide. Here's what happened. I contracted for Mary Kay, and he made this video, and the other editor, and he wasn't really aware of this, right? And he built all this text like over here, like this, right? These lower third names. And then when they broadcast it, big conference room, there's 200 people in there, big TV, and the video came up and the names came up, and all of them are like cut off. Like Mary only showed half the M. So I'll use these to help me sort of guide, so I just kind of know I'm not too close to the edge.
It's in print publication, it would be the margin.
Yeah,
around
exactly.
your InDesign document.
Yeah, exactly. And then also on the one thing I use these for too, a lot of times people will record, remotely or screen record themselves, and maybe I'm reframing the video, and there's a little center like line right here, and it helps me line up the people to make sure that they're in the center if I'm reframing them somehow or something. So that's just talk about this. And so I'm doing what you guys said too. I wanted to be a little more detailed, because maybe we'll, not go over everything all in this one presentation, and we can kind of spread it out. But so I'm going to turn safe margins off for now. And so I'm going to put Cindy like right here. I'm going to go back to my text tool, and I'm just going to click right underneath it. And I'm going to give her a title, which would be like President, President of Titles. I'm just making this up because you can see I can type and spell, I promise. And so I'm gonna just select all this and make the font size a little smaller. And maybe this one's italicized or faux italicized. I'll talk about those in a second. Go to the selection tool, sort of move it and line it up. Yeah, there we go. Now there, oh, I see you have to have multiple lines to get these. So as I'm dragging it, I'm on a Mac. So on a PC, I'm on a Mac, PC. I do a lot of work on a PC. So I'm on a Mac right now. If you hold down Control or Command while you're moving it, you get these kind of snap lines that help you line it up. Also in the selection tool, if when you have the text selected,
Adobe calls them smart guides.
smart guides. Yeah, okay. Smart guides. Which makes me think about smart guides.
Yeah.
So that's cool. And again, when I select these, what I like to do is the new ones it puts on top. So I do this constantly with my work, if I can. I like my layers to sort of represent what's on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to take Cindy and move her above the President of Titles title. And that's only so I'm, you know, it's just representative of what I'm doing. It makes my brain easier. Or, you know, my whole thing is I want to do the work. I don't want to figure things out. I don't want to look for things. I don't want to find things that are missing, you know, so I make myself be organized. That way I can focus on the work because I'm not organized naturally. So when I teach these classes, I call it brushing your teeth. I'm like, why do you call it brushing your teeth? I go, well, the key to spending your time on all the creative things, which is the fun part, is being organized underneath. So you have a to-do list for tomorrow. Guess what's not on there? Brushing your teeth, but yet that's the first thing you're going to do. So I just equate that to being organized with all your files and assets so that you can focus on the actual work. And which is important in these tools because unlike Photoshop, although I know you can do it in Photoshop as well, but unlike Photoshop, in Premiere and After Effects, none of the assets are embedded in the project file. They're only linked. So the project files are tiny, 10K, right? But all the assets are linked. So, you know, in Photoshop, or just the standard way, you can have them linked in there too, but they're, you know, embedded. They're part of the project file. Okay. So there she is, titles. And so I'm going to put like maybe a, you know, a color bar in between or behind one of these. And I'm telling you, this whole thing, when they built it and they made Essential Graphics, it changed the whole game because it's really comprehensive. We're going to go through it here and look at some details. And it was just a game changer for me, I think. So we're going to come up here and there's a icon called New Layer. Oh, you can't see the zoom in. I'll stop zooming. And I'm just going to click on that. And you can choose another text layer or vertical text or a rectangle or ellipse or a polygon shape, or you can even add like a logo that's from a file. And that'll come in here and be part of this group. And it'll all stay in the same one layer clip that's a graphics like clip of additional, you know, text layers and graphic layers. I'm just going to say rectangle. Right, so now I have a rectangle. There's some kind of noise happening here. I don't know what it is, but and then I can move this rectangle where I want. I can see these positions here, do the same thing. And so I'm going to put it over here. Maybe I want it behind, I want it behind her title, maybe. But why is it covering it up? Well, it's actually on top. So I'm just going to slide it down so it's underneath. And now it's behind the President of Titles. And here's the fill color for it. If I click on that, I can make it any color that I choose by picking the same kind of color swatch that we have in the other Adobe tools. Yet it defaults to solid, but I could also make it be a gradient. And I can choose the gradient colors. Oops. Right. I'm just picking colors to be on the gradient. And I can also choose gradient opacities. So I have something like that going on, which is a decent, and look, it's in a few minutes, I have a decent looking sort of title.
Yep.
And then what's cool about this, all of this, everything can be animated.
Can you give the background more space margin behind the text? Could you move the president of titles a little lower and give it a little
Yeah.
north
I
and
think-
top and bottom padding
You mean in the bar or with Cindy?
in the blue bar?
Okay, and I think I'm just gonna move Cindy up a little bit too,
Yeah.
just so I can just get this laid out better. So, and this tell you what I'm teaching all the time too, that this is more of a functionality thing than the course. But so okay, we're gonna get our
I'll play the
shape.
role of the fussy client who says,
Yeah,
"Oh,
no,
can you
that's-
just tweak it a
that's-
little bit?"
Yeah, no, that's good. I like that.
Yeah, that looks
'Cause
better.
that's what it is in real life.
Mhm.
So here's a cool thing, is we can, you can, and this is what you can do in Premiere and After Effects is animation. Right, so that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna make this panel over here a little smaller. Select back in my clip. So, anything, the effects controls and the essential graphics, they're attached to whatever you have selected in your timeline. Like down here is the clip of the woman. If I click that, now these properties really relate to her and not the text, and there's nothing over here. These are the little reset buttons. So with her selected, I can animate on all these pieces. So I'm just going to do that, and I'm just going to walk through it fairly quickly, or kind of an overview instead of being too detailed. But I just want to show one other thing. When over here, when nothing's selected, I still have a set of transform properties, which are part of this vector motion. So it'll move the whole group if I move these properties now.
Oh, that's cool.
So and I can animate, I can animate the whole group, or I can animate the individual pieces, or we're going to do all that, I think, right now. But so let me just fix this motion I screwed up.
And you
Okay.
have the text spell out as if it were a typewriter, one letter after another being added.
Oh, yeah. So, and now, yes and no. So there's no effect in Premiere currently that does that. But
Mhm.
if I revealed it with a mask and then just animated the mask to reveal it, it would look like it's spelling on.
You can do that easily in After Effects. Yeah, I've done that in After Effects. You can.
Oh yeah, you do
offset.
it After Effects. And then there's even an effect called typewriter, right? In After Effects. Yeah, and we're gonna touch on After Effects a little bit today too, but because that's a great place to build. You can build motion graphic templates, the morgt files in After Effects that work in Premiere, and I have one all set up, and I'm going to show that process. But for this one right now, just for a moment, I'm going to build some keyframes here and animate this on and show a couple of functionalities that work well too. Over here, you can rename anything as well. So where it says shape 1, anytime you draw a shape of any kind, it just says shape and shape 1 and shape 2. But if I right click on it, I can say rename, and I'll just call it blue box. Right, so this is relevant to what I'm doing. So I'm going to animate on, everybody. And maybe I'll move Cindy up a bit just so the Y is not covering over the box. How does that sound to my fussy design client?
I approve.
Okay, perfect. Whoops. I'm just going to hover over the Y number and move it. You can, as you said, when the blue box is there, is you can drag it, but it's freewheel. And if I want to constrain it to up or down or left to right, then I would hold shift. But so for me, as someone who works all the time and I want to save every nanosecond I can, that takes 2 hands just to move her up and down if I click and drag in there, because I got to hold shift down to constrain it. If I come over here and just hover over the Y property and adjust it, that's only 1 hand. So I can still drink my coffee or whatever while I'm moving it and save a nanosecond. Because those add up. Now, this is fun work. I love working in here and doing all this kind of work. The problem is what happens is you go, oh no, it's 3 a.m. What have I been doing all day? Okay, so we're just going to set some keyframes. Here's the way I like to do it. I like to go to where the landing spot is. So I'm imagining the animation in my brain, things are going to animate on. That's going to take about 1001, about a second. So keyframes work spatially and temporally. Where are they at in space and where are they at in time? So I'm going to go to where I think they're going to land, which is about a second after this graphic starts, about a second into this graphic. And I'm just guessing. And once you set keyframes, you can always move them, set your keyframes to where you think, then watch it play, and then go, oh, that's too fast or that's too slow. So you can move the keyframes to make the speed adjustments. So I'm just going here, we're about 1 second in time down. And so I'm going to set my landing keyframes for all these properties. And I'm just making this up. I have another one to show as well. But so I'm going to move Cindy, maybe will fly on from the left, we'll say. So I'm going to go to the Cindy properties and twirl them open over here. This is where I need to be for keyframes. But for source text, all these parameters are the same as all these parameters here that we used to first make Cindy. But I don't need those right now. So I'm just going to twirl that set of properties closed. In Premiere and in both in After Effects, I'm closing and opening sets of properties all the time. If I'm not using them, I don't need to see all that stuff, so I'm closing them.
Can you hit a specific key like in After Effects, P for position?
Yeah, A for anchor point,
Right.
E for opacity, S for scale. Parts is the acronym for those things.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great question. No. Not currently, anyway. But a lot of these tools all have single letter shortcuts. Like always, as in all the I should probably mention that too. In all the Adobe programs, they kind of have a home tool for.
Right.
It's the I think in Photoshop it's called the Move tool, right? Here it's the Selection tool. So anytime I'm anywhere, if I'm over here and I notice that I have this pen cursor, my hand just immediately goes to the letter V, right? Which selects the home tool.
John, somebody in the chat room is asking, is it possible for you to make the menu choices larger so they're more legible?
Menu choices.
All of the menu choices in the panels. All of the text is very small. I know that if I close my chat window, my screen will get bigger on my laptop, so the text is easier to read, but it's pretty small. Is there a zoom for the whole
I don't
view?
think you can do that because I had the same problem.
This is, yeah. I mean, I have it totally full screen.
And you can't do command plus to increase the size of the text.
I'm doing command plus now, and it's not.
No, I think just closing the chats. If somebody on Zoom has their chat
that's
window
the best thing they can do.
closed, and
so it's bigger on their screen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I wish, and I'm zooming way in right now, and I know you guys can't see it.
Yeah, it doesn't show. Thank you sorry for the interruption.
Oh, no problem. Okay, so I'm just going to set some keyframes and move this, and I have another piece here that I'll show you so we can speed up. Okay. So this is my landing place in time. So at 1 second into this or so, I'm going to set a key. I'm going to turn on keyframing, which is this stopwatch here. Any stopwatch says toggle animation. When you hover over it, it turns on keyframing and actually set a keyframe right there. So at this time, it's telling Cindy to be at this position X and Y. And I'm just going to back this up to the first frame of my graphic clip. And I'm just going to hover my finger over the X position and drag it to the left. Or I could come and grab this text and slide it with just me dragging it. Then it's freewheeling, so I'd have to add again the shift to constrain it to that the Y position or the X position. my preferred method. I do this dragging and placing it around when I'm initially placing it. But I know I just want Cindy now to be straight off to the left. So again, I'll just do this because now I'm only have to use one hand. And so with the keyframes now, I have a keyframe right here in the first frame that's telling Cindy to be at minus 644 XYs. I'm just going to hit this little button to jump down to the next keyframe. And at 1 second in or so, it's telling Cindy to be there. So if we play it, she moves on like that. Awesome. Okay, great. We'll call that good for now. Although I'm going to show this because I have to. I just have to. I can't not. So here's the thing. In contemporary motion design, nobody does that. You're not going to see anything on TV that moves like that. Here's what it is. It's going 100% speed, and then it's stopping at 0. It's like going into a parking spot and never hitting the brakes and going from 20 miles an hour to 0. Right? There's no slowing down of it. But when you watch TV right now, current motion design, everything starts slow and then moves fast and then stops slow. Right? It slows down and speeds up. It's not just linear.
It's more graceful.
Yeah, it is.
Talking about easing?
Yeah, exactly. But you can control the easing both in After Effects and here, which I do on everything. So I wanted to not show up, but I'm just going to show it anyway, since we may do this a couple times. So just look at how this is moving. I'm going to play it one more time, and then I'm going to show you how I'm going to adjust it. It's just stopping hard, right? So what we do to adjust this now, or to ease this in Premiere, is it's this keyframe I want to do this second one. So I'm going to twirl open this position property. Right? And I'm going to select this keyframe. And now I get these little handles right here, and this little velocity panel comes up. This little handle, I know it's hard to see, and I probably can't zoom in to show you. There's two things here. A little box on the right and a little handle on the left. And when I'm hovered over the handle, you can see the cursor adds a little circle to the arrowhead. When I'm over the box, it's just the arrowhead with a stem. Over here, there's no stem and a little circle. That means I'm over the control handle. I'm going to pull it out and down. And so this graph now represents the speed. This would be 100% speed up here, and this would be 0 speed down here. If I play this back now, watch the motion of Cindy. So that has a totally different feel and look.
It comes in fast and kind of skids to a stop.
Right.
It just slows down. Yeah, I'm going to make it a little less slow down. And that has a much more contemporary feel to me. So if you ever see a graphic that I build, or currently the last few years, they do that. I can't not do it. Okay, so
those are good habits.
Yeah, we just can't. So I'm going to do the same kind of thing with president of titles. Maybe that comes on from the right side. But it's going to move farther, so it's going to be faster. So I'm going to have to work on spacing the keyframes so they feel like they're the same speed. And then I'm going to show another kind of function with this. I'm going to tie this blue background to the motion of the president of titles. So I want them to land at the same time. So that's where I'm at in time now. The thing with keyframing on is anywhere I'm at, if I make an adjustment anywhere, if I change where this is, it puts a new keyframe. So I go here at this time and I move anything or move this text, it makes a new keyframe. So now it's going to do crazy things after it lands. Right? But I don't really want those. So I'm just going to lasso them to select them and delete them. Here's one thing with keyframes. I want maybe let's just say the second one where it lands, I want it to be over more in the middle. Right? So people do this all the time. They think, oh, I'll select this keyframe. Now I can adjust it. Since I have it selected, I'll adjust it. No, because it's making the keyframe where you're at in time. That's what matters, not if you have it selected. If you want to delete it, you can select it. But just because it's selected, I'm not affecting, these parameters have nothing to do with what's selected. They have to do with where you're at in time. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay. Cool. I'm just going to delete that one. And whoops, select this one. Try to select this one. Okay, and there we go. And now I'm going to do the same thing with president of title. So I'm going to just close up my Cindy. I'm going to open up president of titles. I'm going to close source text. There's my transform parameters. I'm going to go down here to this be right on this keyframe. Here's another thing to know too. So these two circles now are not keyframes. They're keyframe indicators. As you notice, the keyframes, especially the linear ones, are diamonds. The ones with the easing on them are hourglass shaped. If I twirl open the text Cindy Smith, we'll see the real keyframes. And that one's hourglass. That means it's has that ease on it. If I twirl that Cindy Smith close, I have these two circles that are telling me, hey, open this up because there's keyframes down there somewhere. I don't know. It could be opacity keyframes or rotation. I don't know what they are until I twirl them open and look. Oh, they're position keyframes. So that's all. I'm just explaining that. So I'm going to go to president of titles. That's my place and time. I'm going to go ahead and turn on the position keyframing and put a keyframe right there where I'm at of those there. I'll go back to for a second to the first frame. And I'll slide that off to the right. So it's off screen to the right, just a little. Okay, perfect. If I hit play, they both fly on. Now this one's slowing down. This one isn't. So I'm going to give this one the same sort of look. I don't know exactly what the velocity is. So I want to poke on this one or select it so I can see or get a look. 19. Oh, so yeah. So the highest, I'm just watching this number right here, the velocity, because I want to build this similar, maybe I'll just leave that open. I want to build this similar, I want them to land or slow down kind of the same way. So I'm going to select this keyframe, twirl up in the properties and drag this out and kind of adjust it. And now I'm kind of comparing my two slopes so they look similar. And I could maybe move this one and see, I'm not really getting the number. So there should be an easier way to do that, to make them exactly, but I think we're going to be close enough. Plus they're moving from different, directions and all that. We won't notice. Okay, that looks pretty good.
Can you select that line and do a copy and then a paste? I'm wondering.
Well, I could, but it's going to copy all the positions. So we'll put president of titles like up here.
Oh, okay, yeah. And not just the easing, huh? I was just thinking that was the easing.
Yeah.
That easing line, you couldn't copy and paste that easing line.
Yeah, I can't like select that line.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay, that's great. But now what I want to do is I want the blue line to kind of be married to president. Okay, so now I have to make keyframes on that, doing the same thing in the same speed, but no, I'm going to cheat. So over here, if I select anything like blue box in my effects, in my Essential Graphics panel, there's this pin to box.
Ooh.
So I can say pin to, not video frame. When I select the drop down, I'm going to say pin to president of titles. Pin to that. And then over here, I have to decide which edges. Well, I just want it to kind of pin to everything. So I'm just going to click right here and then all these little edges turn blue.
Did you click in the middle in order to get all of them?
Yeah, I just clicked right there to get all the blue. And then when I move my time, now the box is associated with those keyframes. I can see the first keyframe, the blue box isn't quite all the way off. So I'm going to adjust this keyframe in president of titles just to make sure it's all the way off. And the box will go with it. Right, there we go.
That's a nice little feature. That's similar to what you can do with the whip tool in After Effects, where you can tie two things together.
Yeah, the pick whip where you can parent.
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know, and I think, Cornelius, I always, and whenever I teach those classes, I'm like, that's the word they use, parent. I'm going to parent that to that, but really it's child, because that's going to follow that.
Right.
But yeah, that's just the word they use, parent. Yeah. And then the pick whip is a very cool thing. We'll do a thing on that too, because we're already getting closer to our time here. So that's cool. Right now, I'm going to show a couple other cool features, and then maybe we'll do another presentation to follow up on this. Here's one I built earlier. Same kind of thing, but I added a graphic as well.
Oh, that's cool.
Right. So I built this earlier to practice for this session. And so I'm going to go back to this one and kind of show, I'm just zooming in, whoops, and show how I added the graphic, because there's no other layer. It's part of the whole text group. And that was this right here, where we select a new layer, and I chose from file. And I went and found a logo and just brought it in. And now that logo is part of this whole text group, still all part of this one layer. So with this logo, then I can also, it's not letting me select. I can also, change the size of it and the position. I can do animation and all that. And then I'm just gonna get rid of this and put this one back on here and show you this one, which already animates. I have the whole thing going off as well. Okay, so that's
Round
very cool.
Logo rotate as it comes in.
Yeah, it rotates and positions, and they all do that easing, so they slow down. And I built masks so they animate that line spot. But so here's the cool thing about the morgt files. I can save this as a morgt file. We haven't even done that yet. I can also copy this clip. You can copy and paste, or in Premiere, if you start dragging and add the author option key and then let go of the mouse, I just made a copy of it. So now I can go to this one, right? And I can actually select this text just by getting the text tool and clicking on it here, or double click on it here. And I can change the name. So now I have a new name, oh, I don't know, Neil Wilson. I'm just making stuff up. Same thing here. And he's president of something else. Oops, something, oh, come on, John, something else. But it still does the same animation.
So how do you save that as that file type once you've created the animation?
Okay, perfect question. Thank you. Yeah. So, and then you can also share with that others. And I work remotely with a team they're in San Francisco and Albuquerque. And those editors didn't really know how to make morgt files and all that stuff. So I did exactly what we're going to do right now. I saved this as a morgt file and shared it with them so they could pull it in. And I'll walk through that in the next 5 minutes here. So I have this clip selected. And if I go up here to File, Export, there's a motion graphics template that I can select.
Cool.
So I select that motion graphics template, right? And I'm going to give it a name. We'll just call this maybe lower third template play. We'll just say that. I'm going to have it go to on the front, I'm going to put 3 A's just so it's easy to find, because we're going to delete it. And I want it to go in my local templates folder. And include a video thumbnail, that's fine. I'm just going to say okay. And so it's exporting it, and it's probably going to give me some kind of font error. Oh no. So here's the other thing with the morgt files, is that up here, we've been working in edit this whole time. There's a browse as well.
Oh, wow.
And I had this up way first. And so most of these come with Premiere.
Oh, wow.
Hover over it, I can see the animation of it. I can drag this out and put it in my clip, and there it is. And the same kind of thing, if I select it, here's all the layers, your title here.
Mm-hmm.
I can change it to this is new or whatever. And so now that does it. And also, if we go back to browse, the file that we just made, Margot Smith, right, is in here in the same group. So someone else, if they added it to their, Premiere set of essential graphics, they can just do the same thing and drag it out into their project and go and select it and highlight it and change the name to somebody else's name. And that's great. And if you share that file with them, or you can export that as a morgt file like we did it and went into our local templates folder, but you can also just like save it to the desktop or wherever, or some kind of file where you have a library of stuff going on. And then when you're in browse here, you get this group, which you can also make small or large or whatever. But down here in the bottom right is a plus sign, install motion graphics template. I was going to show After Effects and how you build them in After Effects and decide what parameters can be changed in Premiere. Maybe we'll do that next time and as a follow-up to this. But if I go and buy templates or get free ones, I can add them to my same group here by just clicking on this plus sign here and then navigating to wherever those are that live anywhere. I don't
Where
have
are
any.
some of the marketplaces for browsing or buying other
Yeah,
people's morgt files?
Okay, yeah, no, perfect question. So, right here, here's one place, Premium Beat, which is from Shutterstock. Here's 21 free motion graphics templates for Premiere. I'll just play so you can see a couple of them. And I can also, let me turn that off. And I can also put these links in the chat box. Do we have our, well, I can do that for this one. So there's a whole bunch here completely free. And also down here, it shows how to install these where it's showing the same thing I showed, at the plus sign, and all that. And it's more than just text. It's those wipes you saw and all that kind of thing. So you can get, and these are free ones.
Wow.
And even Adobe, I don't know if you've ever used Adobe stock, right? But that Adobe, and here's Adobe stock has a category called free, right? I'm in Adobe stock. They have good free stock footage. That clip I'm using that we're looking at is just a free video clip of the girl. Totally HD, looks great, all that stuff. It's just totally free from Adobe
You can
stock.
use it for you can use it for commercial purposes, for any purpose.
Yeah, it's royalty free. So
Great.
and then all these right here, these are templates for Premiere Pro. All these. Like I even have this one loaded in my system. I loaded it today. It's a free one.
Wow.
So Adobe stock, and there's probably more that are not expensive as well.
Aftermarket.
And then you can select from the subcategory what you're looking for: lower thirds, titles, transitions, background, infographics.
Oh yeah, right here. So lower thirds. So now I'm just all lower thirds.
Let me can you click on social media? Let me see what they have under social media.
Okay, sure. Oops, let's get rid of lower thirds.
Probably have YouTube, what have you.
Yeah, I have some other like social media things that are cool that you can do with text and video in Premiere. So maybe that can be another presentation as well. Yeah, so these are all free.
Now, John, it's been a while since I've used Premiere. So are all these features new to Premiere? Because I don't remember any of this.
Oh, yeah, it is all pretty, it's all pretty new. And it keeps getting a little better. It's all kind of within the last year.
Yeah, because I don't remember any of this stuff right here. I mean,
yeah,
basically all I did was, take a video and, you can edit and slice it and dice it. But I hadn't seen any of this. This is cool.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing actually how strong it is that way. And you can also make motion graphics templates with After Effects. So and I'll just review this real quick. So I built this earlier too to demonstrate that. We're gonna run out of time or whatever. But so here's some animation of a lower third in After Effects. And I can also export this. I already set up some properties. You can decide which properties are going to be adjustable in the motion graphics template. So this
Right.
works great for, let's say you have editors that are going to add all the titles, but your designer designed the lower thirds, and it's all based on the branding of that company.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't want the editor to change the fonts or change the color of the line because they're all part of the branding, guidelines
Right.
and all that. So I won't make those properties adjustable in the motion graphics template, or I could, but they can change the text and what it says and all that. And you can actually export this as a motion graphics template, which I already did. I called it AAK. I'm not sure where I sent it. And again, I can add that to my group just by clicking add and searching for that morgt file. I export it out of Premiere and say open. And so now that should be at the top here. The libraries all. Let's here, let's do this, sort by recent. I thought didn't I just load it? There's
thought you
what I'm
did.
talking about. I can't remember, but we'll show that. We'll show more. We'll do the whole After Effects thing and how you build them next time.
That would be
in
good.
After Effects. And I'm just gonna go here and see recent.
That would be wonderful.
So to save layout, yeah, these are, and it to me, like I said, it changed the whole face because that was it. I can make 20 titles, change the name, they all animate the same, and I don't have to render anything out of After Effects or just once, and then I'm good to
I'm
go.
thinking I wish I could import a morgt file into a WordPress document. I don't think I can. I just Googled it and I didn't see anything about
Well,
that.
you could probably make it a small video
Yes.
and then import it into WordPress.
Right. But for example, I just am putting a still image slider on a home page, and it would be nice to be able to control the animation with this sophistication.
Yeah, this is good. I'm just saying it changed. It kind of, when I was teaching a class here at Lumenbright once, and I'm all excited, and they showed this, I'm like, and everyone's like, I'm like, no, you have to be excited or I'm not going to continue because it's a thing, and yeah.
I mean, there are plugins you can do simple text typewriter type animation, but nothing like this. This is beautiful, and I'm sure it's coming.
Yeah,
do you teach online or do you teach in the classroom now?
Yeah. Yes.
Both?
The answer is yes. So that's the like next week, I think it is. I don't mind. I can do either, but doing both together, I just don't like that. And that's what I have like next week, I think, or the week after. Both is hard.
Right.
And then, as you know, Cornelius, the online's still kind of hard because people are often, mine doesn't look like yours or mine's screwing up.
Right.
And it's like, okay, share your screen. How do you share a screen? And all that. When the classroom, like here, you can just walk over there and
Right.
just click that or whatever it is.
Yeah, and not only that, but you're splitting the attention between your classroom and online. You're monitoring the chat.
Yeah.
It's definitely taxing.
Yeah, it's a challenge. The only advantage for the people is that it gets recorded. So if they want to go watch a 6-hour video, they can. Yeah. Okay, well. We'll end it now, unless you guys have any other questions or would you like to see something else, but that's sort of a basic,
Well, I'd like to see part 2 next month.
good overview. Okay, let me look at we'll figure that out.
That'll be great. Thank
just
you
look at
so
my
much
schedule.
for this, and I'll make sure that this video goes up. It'll probably go up tomorrow, but it will definitely go up by next week. And
Okay.
and I will chat with you about when we can schedule your follow-up.
Okay, perfect.
So thank you so much, Jon.
Trying to find my Zoom control so I can stop
Right.
sharing my
Do
screen.
you have any contact info, a screen with any contact info for you that you might be able to show us before we close?
Oh, sure. I'll just type it here. Oh,
Okay.
no, that's not it. That's just a image. You know what? We'll do it right here. My contact
Yeah, right.
information
Will be a
is,
morgt file.
there's my name
Okay.
and my email address. I'm just gonna give my professional one, not my Lumenbright one, is it's John at Pelly Studio. John at Pelly, which stands for peanut butter and jelly. It's short for
Ooh.
and jelly studio.com. Right. And my number is 310-795-3981. Oops.
That's not being very visible somehow because of your mask.
Yeah. Where's the mask? It's an opacity, maybe, there it is. Goodbye. Okay.
Excellent.
Yep, that's my,
Great.
oh, this is not correct. Next. Sorry. 7, there we go.
Ah. You always need a proofreader.
Yeah, I do.
One always does.
Yeah.
Well, that was great. Thank you very, very much.
Oh, you're very welcome. Glad to do it.
Okay, I will stop the recording.
Okay.
Thank you, Jon.
You're welcome. And I can look at my schedule right now, actually.